November 7th, 2023 at 10 o'clock in the morning. We're at Nicholson Library at Linfield University in McMinnville, Oregon. My name is Alyssa Ralston, and I'm sitting here with Sharon Voll, Jackson Newberg, and Corinne Voll, Malott Rice, both of whom lived in McMinnville for a very long time, and both attended Linfield University. And so, with that, I will get going. Can both of you please tell me about your early lives here in McMinnville?
I can remember the very first time we came in. I was 3 years old, and I remember the bedroom, Mother and Dad's bedroom, had a window, corner window on both sides, and that's the first thing I remember about moving to McMinnville. There were a lot of fun things that we did, but what was your first impression of McMinnville?
I was probably 5 years old when I first remembered anything. And we had a neighbor, the Struxnesses, and we had neighbors, the Howards. And because there were only three of us on the street, three houses, it was a very close-knit group. And when Howard Struckness came home from the service, I remember him, and he just passed away, and the picture that was in his brochure was the first time I remember seeing him.
And where was this house?
On Evans Street.
Do you know where grocery outlet is now? That was a field, but about the Evans side street of that, there was a 8-unit motel, Smalley's Motel. And then right on Evans, in the same area, Evans and 99, was Austin's Steakhouse, the best steakhouse that ever was. And there was just 2 lanes, and there was a great big ditch on both sides, and a small macadamized, or maybe it might have been dirt even, pathway for people to walk on. So you go down over, and then across the highway, there was Evans, actually it was Bill's Market, and then Evans Flowers. Nothing else, it was all field then, and there was a farm, a barn right behind that, but it stopped right at that end. On the other side was John Deere, and they had the John Deere tractors, and behind that was the nursery, Brixie Nursery, and that was dead end. Nothing went any further because it's all wheat fields then. Wheat fields by the creamery and out behind our house. And then across the street from us, there was one house. It was Grenfell's house. And the rest of the deal was field. And Corinne and I rode I guess you rode them, I know I did, the horses when they were plowing the field out there.
And we also had 2 horses that we had in the field behind us.
That was later, yeah.
Yeah, that was later, but we did have that.
So what was McMinnville like when you moved? And remind me what year this is that we're talking about.
1942.
And it was about 6,000 people.
Most of the people were farmers and outside, so we didn't have a lot in the city. And we were always on the edge of town, wherever we lived. And Evans Street, the end of Evans Street, was pretty much there. And I can remember Mama telling us, don't start any fires to do stuff that the kids, as we got older, and stuff like that. Well, Coy Howard and I kind of did start a little fire and got scared because Mother said the whole town would, and boy, us kids were out there beating down that fire like you wouldn't believe. We had Corinne, we had all the kids out there, and I was thunderstruck to see that you go a little ways and the fire would come up again, and we'd beat it, and I thought the whole town was going to, you could never get me to play with fire ever again.
What started the fire?
Oh, us kids, Coy and I.
You just had a match?
Oh, he had matches and stuff, and he was playing around, and I was
ornery.
No, I was just, I like to investigate. But I always thought I could take care of things, so I kept my head. But because I ran and got Mother right away. I wanted to go to run and hide and let it happen.
What brought the family to McMinnville?
Dad's teaching.
Yes, he was a teacher at McMinnville High School. He started the football program at, or was it the softball program? One of those. Softball. I think it was softball that he started at McMinnville High School. He taught history there, and it was just a good connection for him. He had friends here, and
Actually, I think he bought the house on Evans. Wasn't that from Roy Helzer?
no, that was from a family in Carlton.
Okay, that's Jernstedt.
Jernstedts, yes.
Okay, he bought the house from Jernstedts. I don't even remember that because they were friends. And they'd moved to Carlton. And I remember Helzers used to come and stop in quite a bit. But Paul Durham and Roy Helzer were very, very good friends from high school and stayed very, very close all through life. And sports is what brought them together. And Dad was an all-star in high school, in Franklin High School in Portland. He was an all-star here at Linfield in all sports, and he's in the ANAIA Hall of Fame for all 3 sports.
And for our viewers, can you tell us your dad's name?
Johnny Voll.
Everybody called him Johnny. He was John Voll, but he got called Johnny.
We'll get to that in a second. Can you tell me some of your favorite memories of McMinnville in the 40s and 50s when you were growing up?
You know, my biggest memory was, because it was such a small town, and I think I mentioned this before, but anyway, my dad put a sled on behind the car and took us all over McMinnville with a sled on behind a car.
Made wood sled.
I'm sure that he would have gotten in a lot of trouble if it were today, but
Well, we didn't have the traffic.
but there was, you know, I mean, the streets were, it was fine to do it.
What I remember most, and I'm sorry that it didn't continue, but of course it can't, is going down Evans Street. It used to be Walnut City at one point, and the trees lined up from the football field where the high school is now all the way down to about 5th Street towards, and they made a tunnel. And we would walk it often, but when we go to the movie or something, we go down and we look up, and they were all silver tipped with the lights. Oh, it was beautiful. But it was a very quaint little town. We had 3 lumber yards at that time. We had Volstead and Kerr. We had, do you remember the other 2? No. I'll have to stop and think, but we had 3. We had one was, Volstead and Kerr. What was the one over there on South Davis?
I don't know.
There was a big one over there.
I was too little.
And there was another one. Anyway, Dad did that in the summertime when he was teaching. He sold lumber or bought lumber for the mills and stuff.
And I think the other thing that I remember maybe the most is that on 19th and Baker, there was, what do you call that? Where the Mennonites had their auction. It was an auction yard, and it had a big building, and they had an auction, I believe, every week or so.
I don't think it was a Mennonite. They may have come in, but it was Rice and Son. It was Rice and Son.
It was Rice and Sons, but it was all the people that came to it were that, Mennonite or Old Order Mennonite or something. Anyway, one of my friends in high school, her family came there a lot, and she's a lifelong friend. I see her when we go to Arizona. So, it was just, and my mom worked there for a little while too.
It was too noisy for Mama.
And it was only a little over a block from our house.
Well, it's where New to You is today. That was Rice Auction Yard, and they used to have auctions of home goods on Wednesday nights and Friday nights. Saturday nights was a live livestock auction, and there were people all over, but it was a bit, I mean, we were out in the country basically at that point, and it was a wonderful thing that we had. And then right next to that, all the way up to 17th, 19th. No, what is that? Yeah, not 19th, 17th, all the way up to 17th was walnut orchards on the one side. And then on the other side we had cherries, and we had some filberts and stuff, but there weren't very many houses out there at all. And so those were things we remember.
So since we're going into the holiday season, do you remember any memorable Christmases or things that the town would do at Christmas time?
Oh, they always decorated the tree at the end of where the park is.
Where they still do.
Street. It was small. It's now gotten to be huge, but it was the big celebration. Everybody was there, and there were a ton of lights on it. It was fun.
And we would drive around all the streets and look at the, different decorations.
And for years, Dad always put up beautiful decorations, and then they started giving out trays for the decorations, and Dad got it 3 years in a row, and they were going to keep giving it. Dad said, no, 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 no. People are going to start hating me. Give it to somebody else. But he still kept decorating.
When you say trays, what do you mean?
Oh, they gave out a service tray or something that you could hang on your wall. Best decoration, or you could serve with it whatever you wanted to. But, you get one of those, and it was enough. Dad was pleased, but he didn't do it for that. He did it because he loved the festivities, and he always decorated the tree. It was loaded. It was fun.
So since we're talking about your dad, and I know your dad was the first one to attend Linfield.
Yes, he was.
Let's talk about his Linfield experience, such as you know it or remember it.
Okay, Corinne, tell him about how he got here.
Okay. I think the most important thing that happened after he graduated from high school is that Coach Lever came to Portland and went to the family house.
He knew his talent.
And I'm sure some of the others got scholarships too. But he came there, and my dad's family was not rich. They were very poor. And the boys all had to work to keep the family going. And so Coach Lever came, and he told Dad that he would give him a full scholarship to Linfield. And when he got through with his speech that he gave, my dad looked at his dad and he said, I don't think I can do this, can I? Because that would mean that one person wasn't able to be
Contribute to the family.
So after he told his dad that, his dad said, you'll never have another chance like this. You need to go. So his dad let him go. And
his brothers supported him.
And yes, and they worked harder to take care of the family so that he could go. And my dad did some different work down here. You talked about the fact that he
stayed. He didn't have money for the dorm and stuff like that, and probably very many of the pictures are belonging to anything to begin with. And so Taylor Dale said that he could stay in the basement, and I think that one or two other guys went with him, did the same thing. Stayed in the basement as night watchman and stuff like that. Most of it was charity because they probably didn't need the watchman at that time. And so he stayed there, and then he worked at Odell Tire and another place so that he could be in sports. And so that's how he got his food and things like that.
And he also worked for the people that had the meat market down on
King's Market.
King's Market.
Well, he didn't really he did do that, but what he did was after the year, I think it was a year and a half, he was there, and then he made a connection to go work, to stay and babysit the King's children. And it was on Burnett and West Side Road was their 10-acre farm, 10.5 acre. And we went out there as little kids. It was just wonderful. And then along the way, years later, we always figured it'd be a generational down because it had been. It came up when my husband was getting his master's degree in Wyoming. The farm came up for sale, and I said, "Oh, Mama, ask Daddy if we can get in, if we've got enough." So long distance, sight unseen, except we knew the place. We were able to get a down payment with the sale of our house and stuff, so we got it. And we still have it. My granddaughter's buying it from me now. So it's pretty neat.
Wow, what a legacy. So tell us, you said your dad played football.
Yes, football
And baseball.
And baseball.
and track. Football, baseball, basketball.
Baseball and basketball, yeah, 3.
So what was his major? What did he specialize in?
Social sciences, I think,
Yeah, social sciences, history,
and PE, physical ed.
yeah.
And so because he had gone here, was the plan always that you would come here?
No,
No.
I wanted to come here, but I didn't want to hurt my families because Mother wanted me to go someplace in Portland. Dad, of course, would have been pleased with me going here, and I didn't want to take sides, so I picked Willamette University. And it wasn't a real good fit for me. It was a great school, but I went a year and a half there, and then I transferred here for my last semester, or whatever it was, last half of the year, and then I got married instead of finishing. Big mistake. No, not getting married and stuff, that was perfect, but not finishing is a big mistake. If you have the opportunity, you need to finish.
Tell the ladies in the camera.
Yeah, it's true. You need to finish, even if it's night school or weekend or whatever, but you really need to finish. My one regret.
So when were you here? What year?
I was here in 1958. No, let's say 1959, I think.
And so Corinne, tell me about your Linfield experience, because you were here for all 4 years.
Yes, but they were
Oh, yes.
way spread out.
Tell us about your Linfield experience. You, like Sharon, said that you hadn't planned to come here initially.
Yes, I was going to go to Salem and do a different degree totally over there, and I got a scholarship to Linfield. And I thought about it, and I finally decided that I should come to Linfield. And so I did, and my experience is probably a whole lot different than other people, because the first year that I came here, I was not married, and then in the summertime got married, and so then being married, I had a lot of chores to do at home as well, and we also lived in the country. So anyway, in October of that second year, I was having a lot of trouble with not feeling good and stuff, and it turned out that I was pregnant. And so we had to attend chapel 3 times a week, and it was required that you do that, and you could only be excused 1 time in a whole semester. Well, I had morning sickness, so I would go to chapel, but sometimes I would have to go out for a little bit and then come back. But the chapel experience was the best. It was Dr. Frizzy took over for that and did a wonderful job. And it was, I think, one of my most wonderful experiences at Linfield.
Tell me a little bit about the chapel experience. So was there like an attendance sheet that you had to sign?
Yeah, we had to let them know that we were there for sure. And there was somebody at the door to be sure that everything was in order. And And then we also had to take classes. One of them was basic Christian thought. Another one was another Christian one. I don't remember exactly the name of it, but Dr. Frazee taught those two, and that was wonderful.
I took a class on the religions of the world, so maybe that was one you took.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. And then I actually, when I was married, I actually came to, you could be excused from chapel then if you were married. Well, I came every time because I did not want to miss it. It was that good. My teachers were wonderful, with the exception that I had one English teacher.
Can I go back
Sure.
to the chapel
You-
bit? So,
yeah.
you would sign in for service.
Right.
And then could you sit wherever you wanted with whoever you wanted?
You could sit where you wanted to. And one day we had parts of the ceiling that started coming down, just in all different areas, and even some of the round things that hold up the ceiling, one of those started breaking loose. And we were all in there, and Dr. Frazee went right up to the front as fast as he could, and he excused everybody in order of how they should go. We all got out of there. They fixed up the room, and then we were back in.
Too much water. We have a lot of rain here.
But that was something I would remember for a long time, yes. and then during the years that I was having my children, I had my two girls, and I took a break for, I think it was 4 or 5 years that I took a break, and then I went back to get my final, to get everything taken care of, because I've only finished my sophomore year. So then my junior and senior year, I went ahead and did those. Well, I got pregnant during the senior year, or during my junior year, and so I was planning on taking the senior year in 2-year segment. My baby was born, lived only 12 hours. He had hyaline membrane disease. My second daughter, who graduated from Linfield, also had that. But girls fight harder than boys do. And so they took him to Portland, but they didn't even get him to Portland. He died before he got.
Beautiful baby.
And he was a redhead too. Like my mother and my sister and I, he was a redhead. But anyway, I decided after that happened to go ahead and complete my senior year. So basically I got that done, and we were able to adopt a son because I wasn't having any more. And so we adopted him, and he arrived 6 days before my school year was over. And my folks had a party.
Oh yeah, he was a beautiful baby and is a beautiful person today.
And all of my aunts and uncles and everybody just made over him. It was quite a time.
So tiny.
Yeah, he was a tiny baby.
I had large babies and she had small ones.
So anyway, and then I still had a couple of classes that I had to take. So I got those out of the way, and I had a chair like this sort of, and then I had a book holder, so I had the book over here to be held on that. I'd be holding the baby and feeding him and doing my homework and stuff. And, finally got it all done and got my degree. And then later I went back and got my master's degree. And master's degree was only a few years, I think maybe 3 or 4 years or something at Linfield. And during that period of time, I was able to get my master's degree. and which was good because then I was into teaching and, you know.
She's got a lot of grit and stick-to-itiveness. That's one.
It was a lot of work. It was a lot of work.
I remember you telling me when we were speaking earlier that at graduation you had the baby on your hip.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think so.
It's a good picture. For both of you, were there any professors or maybe faculty or staff that you remember fondly? I know you've mentioned Dr. Frizzy.
Dr. Frizzy, he was my favorite.
Gosh, I don't think there was anyone I didn't like, but I don't remember anyone standing out over the rest, but I was only here for one semester.
And who was the one who taught geology that was a good friend of Dad's? I don't know why I wouldn't remember his name either, but I remember him very well. And he was a good teacher.
One thing with age is you always remember things, you remember faces, but names, you're not around them, they kind of go out the window.
What I remember the most about him is he took us on some trips to see different things, and one place we went was down toward the coast or something, and we were getting rocks to bring him back, and they let my two girls, that was when the girls were here, but they let the two girls go, and the boys in class would put them on their up here on their shoulders and carry them around and so forth. And then I think the greatest experience that I had was the observatory over there. I mean, we could go up and see everything so clearly. Well, my girls got to do that too. I don't know if they ever remember it because they weren't very big. But the boys would put them on their shoulder, and then they get to look through that telescope and see different things, and it was really, we saw Saturn was one of the things that we saw. That is a beautiful, beautiful experience.
Students are really, really neat because I remember Joe Dancer and Calvin Cabe were Dad's students in high school. And they would pack us around. They would throw us back and forth at practice and stuff. It was, I mean, kids are really wonderful.
Can you tell me about any great friendships that you made when you were on campus?
Quite a few. I never knew a stranger. But most of my experiences and remembrances are from over at Willamette University and stuff, and I had some really good experiences, and then I had one strange experience.
Well, I was at Failure Hall. Failing Hall.
I hope it wasn't Failure Hall.
I was at, well, failing doesn't sound very good either. No. I was at Failing Hall my first year, and yeah, we had some experiences, but I don't know, they're not ones that I really want to remember. But in the basement, we had our home ec class, and that was, my home ec classes here were excellent, excellent classes.
What sorts of things would you learn in home ec classes?
Oh, you learn how to sew, you learn how to cook, you learn how to do everything, you know, that is to do with household stuff and so forth. And then I did home economics when I was teaching.
And where did you teach?
I taught 2 years at Sheridan, 1 year at Willamina, and then I got married to my husband, Glenn. This was a year after my divorce. And we went to Salem then. And so I didn't want to drive all the way from South Salem all the way there. So then I did a lot of substitute teaching in Salem. And when we moved back to McMinnville, well, we were still in Salem. I was secretary to the superintendent at Salem Academy, a wonderful private school. And then here in Mac, I was secretary to 3 assistant principals at the high school, and that's where I retired.
So keeping it back in Mac, I know we spoke yesterday. Can you tell me about the Columbus Day storm?
It was horrendous. My husband was teaching at that time, and we had a basketball game going over. He was the assistant coach for the team, and we were going over to Salem. We had our 2 little babies in the car, and Joey was born on the 1st of August, and then the other one was 2.5 years older. And thank God I was a nursing mother, because we got as far as, what is that little station in between the little gas station? McCoy, no, not McCoy. Anyway, on the highway going, and the tree came down, and it smashed the couple in the car. It was a girl and a boy. And it was really, really sad, because his folks had lived back the way where the road comes off to go up to the little chapel there, and they had lost their oldest boy 4 years earlier for a tree in their front yard splitting and coming down and crushing him. They lost this boy because he was driving, and the tree snapped, came across the highway and crushed them, him and his girlfriend, and we were the next car right behind him. And we didn't know for years, I think 10, 20 years after, well, it was about 12 years later, my husband's sister was talking. She was the first one on the other side of the tree coming home from her job in Salem. And we never knew that, but it was sad. We lost, I think, 3 people in Yamhill County, and I don't think there were any other losses in the state. But we got hit hard, really hard. And I remember my husband turning around and coming back, and the trees are coming down right and left. And I was so panicky and stuff, and we got back. He went up over the hill, and they were just coming down right and left. And I thought, oh my gosh. And we've got the babies tucked right in between us. We got as far as the airport on 3 Mile Lane. The trees were all down. There was no way that we could get back in. So we turned around and came back, and the wind was picking us up, so we had to keep doing like this in the car. The airplanes at the airport were rolling across, a bit broken loose from their moorings and coming towards us. And we just inched our way and kept going. We went over hot wires. We didn't touch anything in the car. Got into Dayton, and Carl there was somebody at the gas station there, and he asked them if there was anybody could take in a family, or if there was something. And they says, what do you mean a family? He says, I've got my 2 babies in the car. And so one of the guys was a fireman, and he said, I live across the street in the park there. He says, I'll take you over there. And he took us over there. Well, I was nursing the baby, so he got fed. The older one didn't need it, but we were there until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning when they took us by ambulance, not because we needed it, but because they needed the ambulance over there. And they took us, they had to go cut wood all the way through to get us back. We had to go Portland side instead of the easy side to McMinnville, and they got us home. And I remember it was really cold, it was nasty. We got into the beds and pulled the covers over us and stuff like that. And we were so tired, and I remember my mom and Johnny Voll coming in the door the next morning and to check on us. And they went all through the house, and we were so tired I couldn't wake up. And I wanted to say, Mama, we're right here. And in my mind I was saying it, and Mother was crying. She says, Johnny, they're not here. They're not here. Oh, Johnny, what are we going to do? And I'm saying, Mama, we're right here. Finally, I was able to get it, and they were so relieved. And of course, they took care of us for a while, but as soon as we could get back home, I washed 3 dozen diapers every day in ice cold water outside. You do what you have to do. But it was a nasty storm. We lost some beautiful people and one of the best builders in town.
Do you have memories of that?
Oh, yes. I do. We lived in the country. We had 2 cows. And my husband, which was Bob Lott, he was driving milk tank trucks. And so he had to leave way early in the morning to go to all these different places. And he saw some really bad experiences. But anyway, that left me with the two girls at that time, and the 2 cows. So I had to milk cows, separate cream, and take care of all of that. And we had no electricity. So what happened was that because we had no electricity, we finally had to go stay with the folks, because Lori was just a baby at that time.
Yeah.
And
We both took turns at Mom and Dad's. They were very generous with us.
so we stayed in there until we got our electricity back. 9 days it took to get electricity out in the country, out by St. Joe underpass on that side. And so that was an experience, but I also remember, which isn't part of that, but it's sort of related. When I was going to classes here at Linfield, my girls were little. That was before Patrick, but they were little, and I had to milk the 2 cows, separate the cream, get the girls up, get them ready for school, and of course myself too. And it was an experience. I had to be at school by 7:40 in the morning for a class. And 2 times at least, the professor did not show, which made
As committed as you were.
which was, I mean, it really made you upset because I went through a lot to get there in the first place. So anyway, yeah, I have those experiences. I definitely have.
Wow.
I have another experience from Linfield too. I worked in the library between my junior and senior year because a little girl that was a neighbor to my grandma wanted to go to Europe, and she had saved up her money for quite some time, and she needed someone to go with her. And of course, Mom and Dad had traveled and taken us many places, but I had never traveled by myself. But they said, well, if Sharon can go, Marie can go. So I set out to get a job for that summer, and I worked for Bud and Dot for the summertime, and they had a little hamburger stand just not too far from the college here. And I worked the springtime free. I learned how to bake a ton of pies, clean up, and service all the stuff, because I got to do a lot of potato peeling and, back of the kitchen type of stuff. And it was good experience, but that was supposed to give me my summer job so I would have enough money to pay my way. Now, Mom and Dad could afford to send me, but they always raised us to be equal to the people we were with. So she had to earn her money to go, so I felt that I needed to earn my money to go and stuff, so we would be on the same footage. And so come the summer that I was going to go, I called them and see what time I was going to come in, and they says, oh, we don't have a position for you. We hired somebody. And I was just totally deflated. And I thought, what am I going to do now? Because Mom and Dad still could send me, but that's not right. And so I put on my Sunday clothes, and at that time you dressed up, you put on hat and gloves and stuff. I didn't use the hat and gloves, but I put on my Sunday best, and I started out at Boersma, where Boersma is now, was Montgomery Ward's. And I started in that corner, went in to talk to every manager, because Dad having the mill also, I knew that you had to talk to someone big in the company or you were just dismissed and never went anywhere. So I wanted to talk to the owner or the manager and I went all the way up to the railroad tracks on 3rd Street, crossed over, came all the way back, and of course everyone said, well, you know, you're awful late in asking her this. We really don't have anything. We can't encourage you. And then when I got through, then I thought, well, where else? And I thought, oh, well, Linfield. So I came out here and interviewed, and then there was another eatery, and then there was one other thing that was off grid there from downtown. And I went home pretty dejected, and I thought, geez, I've got to do something because I can't make enough money picking berries like everybody did. And of course, Corinne and I had done that too. And so I kept thinking, what on earth am I going to be able to do? And the next morning, I got 3 calls back, 3 invitations to come to work, and one of them paid pretty good. But I got to thinking, I'm going to be going to college. I think maybe my best bet would be to work at Linfield College. Then I'll know where all the books are, the things that I need to study. So I took, didn't pay as much, but it did pay good. And so I came to the old library and worked. Turned out to be one of the most memorable experiences I had in my lifetime. And I met some really neat people, got to work with nice people. I learned how to shelve books, how to write on the backs of them, how to bind them, all kinds of things, and we had fun. I had my first pizza when Carlson, Gene Carlson was in my class, his older sister, and they lived real close. And they invited me over for lunch one day, and they had pizza, homemade pizza. It was delicious. It was great, and so I learned to make Appy and Wake pizza for my family later on after I got married. But it was a good experience, and I really, it was the one I was supposed to have. And I think God kind of pushes you one way or the other through your life. You may not realize it at the time, but every experience is a good one. It's a learning experience, and you just have to take the best and keep moving.
So I'm going to go back because you were mentioning picking berries.
Oh,
assuming
yes.
These are Marion berries.
Strawberries. Strawberries and beans were the big thing when we were back at school.
And this was a student job back then, or was it anybody?
Anybody. We got on the bus, went out to Alderman's Farms. We get up at 5:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning, go out, and they had to deposit us back in town around 3:30. You worked out there, and once in a while you'd have a strawberry fight, but not often, or you were canned and stuff. But you picked as fast as you could, and you had to make a lot of money and stuff. Corinne and I tried the beans. Being redheads.
I have bean poisoning.
Yeah.
It does not work.
Redheads, we couldn't do it. We had rash all over the place.
I cannot pick a green bean, not even a green bean.
In the afternoon when they're dried off, you probably can, but not in the morning when the dew is on the vine. You just can't. And redheads are pretty sensitive to a lot of things. We have to be careful of medications and all kinds of stuff. But it was strange. But we went out, and Mama says, I don't think you need to go. It cost her more in doctoring than we made that first day. I think we went 2 times.
Did other things.
We did too, yeah. But we went out. But strawberries we did. And that was a good thing. It was the best thing for kids back then because they earned the price of $1. They used that to buy their school clothes and stuff.
So you would get paid by the bushel? Or
You got by the pound.
by the pound. Mm-hmm. How much would you get paid per pound?
I don't remember. It wasn't very much. It wasn't a lot, but
Things didn't cost a lot in those days either.
They didn't. And they didn't have to have. They carried some insurance, but not like they have to do today. And they've got so many mechanical things now, there's no way they could ever go back to that, which is sad. Very sad.
To the extent that you can you tell me about any sort of campus reactions to major national events while you were on campus? So the election of John Kennedy, the assassination of John Kennedy, anything that maybe burst the, like infiltrated the Linfield bubble. from my understanding from other interviews we've done, it was a pretty insular community, but I'd love to hear your impression.
I don't think a lot of things affected the school so much early on. Later, a lot of things started influencing the school and the students. But I think the earlier things, was a shock. I can remember my babies were little and I was driving home from Sheridan and the news hit about Kennedy in the car and I almost couldn't drive the car. I mean, it was such a shock. And Mom and Dad had the real estate, the 3rd of Baker at that time. And I swung in there and I said, did you hear the news? And then you're just glued to the TV for days. I mean, it was a horrible shock. And I don't remember hearing about what the kids thought so much at that time because I was busy with my own little family and I did a lot of civic things and things with the kids in the schools, but I just remember how the neighbors and everybody else reacted. I think later on as things happened, the students became a lot more interactive and knowledgeable about stuff and vocal.
And I wasn't on campus, so
Yeah.
I don't know how others responded to that. And it happened at, I think, a time that was that at Christmas time? Or November, yeah. So
Before Thanksgiving.
yeah, I just remember being downtown when it happened, but not on campus, so I don't have any memories of how anybody responded.
Coming back to the college, I understand that after you both came here, additional members of your family have also attended.
Oh,
Can you
Corinne's
speak a little
came
bit
on.
about that?
Mine went to Oregon State.
Okay, it's Lori McCaw. She was Lori Malott at the time.
Besides Lori, is that the end?
Didn't-
Lori, so if it was my dad, it was me, and it was Lori in my family. And then I have a granddaughter, and they gave her a scholarship here, but she didn't come. She is going to be graduating next year as a nurse, and she went through some college in Washington. I don't even know the name of it, but she's doing very, very well. And it would have been nice to carry on that tradition for the 4th generation, but it didn't happen. And then I came back and got my master's degree. I think I mentioned that. So,
With a little luck, maybe I can get some of my great-grandkids, because I've got 8 of them. I might be able to get some of them to go through school here.
That'd be nice.
We'll try.
We've covered a lot over the last almost an hour. But is there anything that I forgot to ask or any memories that we haven't mentioned?
No, unless you want to talk about silly stuff like when we used to play with our little ditches, because Evans Street was real narrow. We used to play, what was it, war or something? We'd throw rocks back and forth across the thing. And I remember one time we were throwing and we weren't paying any attention because there was very little traffic. And a car came down and Coy Howard threw the rock and broke the guy's windshield. And he was a little bit hot under the collar. And I think I was in the 2nd grade. I was a 2nd grader at that time. And the kids all ran, but me, because we were taught to own up to what we did, and I didn't do it, but I was playing. And he come roaring over at me, and I said, well, I think the boy that did it lives in that house right there. I walked over to the house, and I don't know whether Corey got into trouble, but I think Howard's ended up paying for the windshield. I remember that.
I wasn't there. I wasn't a part of that. I was not a part of the pranks of this.
Anything that was athletic or had anything to do outdoors, she was not. She was a home, she played with dolls. She loved dolls and did really well, but we were just different night and day that way. I was sports minded and liked to do all the stuff, and And when Mom and Dad had people in for all the ball games and stuff, for the socials afterwards, the guys who would, or whatever, watch the games on TV, I was always in there doing that. And Corinne was there, because I was a PE major and art minor and stuff when I was going to school. So it was kind of interesting. There was one other thing I was thinking about, but I don't know now. It's gone. Big deal. Turkey Rama. We started that, and turkeys were huge here. We were known as Walnut City, and then that kind of phased out. Then we became known as Turkey Town, USA, and we had beautiful picnics down in the bottom of the city park, and they put all the stuff up there, and it was huge. I mean, all the turkey growers roasted all the turkeys, and there was a lot of food and stuff, and it was inexpensive, and we'd eat down there, and then they'd have games and different things, and they had Turkey Rama was just McMinnville. They didn't bring other people in. And the sales were actually sales. They were things that they were unable to sell, and so they marked them way down, put them out on the street, and the stuff went real fast.
What time of year is this?
Turkey Rama is about July, I think, June, July, right in there.
They're doing it anymore.
They may not even be doing it anymore at all,
Yeah.
because there's no more turkeys
Yeah.
and stuff. And what happened to the turkeys was Key Bank. They used to bank with one of the other outfits, I don't know what, and then Key Bank wanted their business, so Key Bank asked for their business. Well, turkey growers, farmers to boot, get their money in advance, and they pay back when their crops come in and stuff, and they use a little bit of that for the other, and then they need the loan again. Well, 2 years, they got it. Third year, Key Bank says, we're not loaning, and the turkey growers went under. Stollers, I think, was the last one to have turkeys. Evers in Dayton, and Stollers. I guess Stollers is also a Dayton address. But those were the two that remained for a little bit later, and then one's got a turkey disease or something, and that wiped that out. So that was the end of Turkey Town. Then it was just commercial stuff.
This is the first I've heard of Turkey Rama, so
Oh.
I have some questions for you about that.
Okay.
So would you get your turkey in July and then freeze it until Thanksgiving, or would you just
No,
eat all
no.
the turkeys?
They would sell turkeys, and they were good, but you bought them at the market, at the supermarket and stuff. But Turkey Rama itself was a festival that the town put on, and the turkey growers did it, and stuff like that. And the whole community would come in, the whole county would come in, and then we started getting some people from other stuff, and.
So I'm picturing in my head sort of a county fair.
It was more that type of thing, but it was all down 3rd Street. Yeah, and then eventually they put in the carnival down there, and then they brought in other people and stuff. As it went, it became not what we started it with just plain old country, town, county people. So then it got a little bit spoiled.
Okay, I'd like to return to my dad a little bit.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think that some of the things that I remember the most is how he really liked Lever, Coach Lever, and my dad died on my husband's birthday, and my husband has kept his same seat over here at the stadium for the football games, always, yes. And he comes to those games all the time. I bring him to the games, drop him off. Then when he calls me, I come back and get him. And
You only keep one ticket instead of Mama's two?
One.
Oh, because there were 2 tickets, and
Yeah,
I always thought I was going to get
just
one,
have
because
the one.
we always went to the games with Mom and Dad and stuff,
Yeah.
and I never got to go to another one.
And as I come down here to pick him up, I always wave at at Mr. Paul Durham, because they were such good friends.
The Helters and the Durhams and the Volls were big hangouts. We did a lot of things together.
And then the other thing I remember about that is when my dad was passing away, he was kind of in and out. And he started talking about all the people that he was seeing in heaven. And he talked about Coach Lever a lot. He would say, I see Coach Lever over there, or whatever, And so that is a memory that I will never forget. So that's kind of like most of the experiences that I remember.
Well, Dad was pretty important person, I think, because I don't think anybody else in the entire state has ever been backed by so many people. He was nominated as president of the real estate board, and they were asking him to be commissioner. Mother said no. But he didn't run for it. And someone says, well, Johnny, will you take it if you're elected? And he says, well, I won't say no, but he says, I'm not going to run. And so Medford, Corvallis, Salem, and Eugene, and Portland, the people in those areas knew him well enough, knew that he was sound and very honest, all wrote his name in on a write-in campaign, and he won.
And also,
I wined and dined.
I think I bring it back to Linfield all the time here, but he also was in the Hall of Fame here at Linfield, I think twice.
Yeah, he was.
Once when he was alive, and then after he was already gone, because Mother and us were up there.
Yeah, we went to that one, and then he was also nominated to the NAIA Hall of Fame, all three sports. He was really, really an avid sports person.
He lived large in this community.
So obviously we love our dad and remember a lot of things. Yeah.
There's some people that work at the title company right now and say, oh, Johnny Voll, we'll move mountains for, if you're, yeah. He was, we were honored to be born into that family. We really were.
On that note, I will go ahead and let you both go. Thank you so much.
Thank
for taking
you.
the time to sit with me today and for sharing your stories and your memories. We'll be up on YouTube in a couple of weeks.
Okay.